Hi, everybody. It looks like it is noon, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining today's Stay Connected webinar. We're really excited to have Marcia Fritz talk about her garden in Cozad, and she can tell you a little more about herself and her work. But before we get started, I wanted to welcome you on behalf of the Get Connected Conference partners. So I'm Kim Larson. I'm with the 21st Century Community Learning Center program. Who is a partner, Nebraska Department of Education, Beyond School Bells, Click to Science PD, and Nebraska Extension. We're gonna have some announcements at the end of this webinar about an additional opportunity that you'll have tomorrow that we're really excited about too, but we're gonna go ahead and let Marcia take it away. Marcia, thanks for leading our webinar today. We're really excited about your presentation.
Well, thank you. It's a fun thing, I think, to do with kids. We've been going about 10 years with our garden here in Cozad at the school. So I guess if you have a question, or if you can write down in the chat box, maybe your name and what school you're at, they're going to download those for me later. And if you have a question, I sure don't have a problem with you just jumping in. So unmute yourself and ask your question, and I'll try to have some time at the end also. So we will get started. Okay, so I just okay, can you see my screen? Because I have two screens up now.
It was up and now it's showing your face again.
Oh man, after I just thought I had it under control. All right, let's do this.
Thanks to people that are putting where they're joining us from in the chat box. That'll help Marcia.
All right, how's that?
Not yet.
Oh man. All right.
Something else you might want to share in the chat is if you already have a garden. I would love to know how many of our programs have gardens that they can work in, whether they're at your school or somewhere nearby.
Hey, Marcia, if you just, when you click on your shared screen,
Yeah.
where it had on there, it should be like a top left, it says screen, like in a blue background there. Maybe that's the one you click on. There you go.
We see it.
There you go.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for all of the helpers now.
There you go.
So can you see the big screen? Because I have all my notes from the...
There you go. Now we see it.
Oh my gosh.
There we
After I
go.
practiced and everything. Okay, so this was a couple of releases the last few years. Every summer, we've hatched and released butterflies and ladybugs and praying mantis. And the kids every year, I think, oh, they're tired of it. And it's amazing how different they react to these hatchings as they get older. We have the same kids a lot of the summers, and they're just as excited as fifth graders as they were as kindergartners. So those are a couple of the releases that we did last summer. So our beginning, in 2009, we tried a garden. You can see on the right-hand side, there's some sheds and garages in the background, and we planted around the sheds and the garages our first year. And wasn't very successful. We had bad soil. The kids didn't really know where to step, and so they stepped on things. And we had a custodian who sprayed for us around the sheds and killed all of our beans one year. And so we had a parking area in back of our school. And that was before the outdoor garden. And we had an old playground that they tore down. And all the lumber that is around our little boxes was left over. They were going to throw it away. So we claimed that, and we had volunteers, lots of parents, lots of spouses of people that work at our program, and they built all these boxes. And so they're 3 foot by 3 foot boxes. And the reason that we do 3 foot by 3 foot is so that the kids can reach across them. They can't handle 4 foot by 4 foot. It's too big, and then they have to step in the boxes. So the paths are gravel, and that just makes it very easy for us. It's very few days that we can't get in the garden with those gravel paths, even when it snows. So we have the before and after of our outside garden. And then I just put a picture in there of what it looked like March 1st. So it looks pretty much the same as it did, just not quite as green. So then in 2015, we were the recipients of a Monsanto grant, a $25,000 Monsanto grant. And so we were able to put in a greenhouse, which I'm not going to spend a lot of time with the greenhouse because not every school has a greenhouse. We're very fortunate, and it's a lot of work, but it has allowed us to do some things that we couldn't do before. So the $25,000 Monsanto grant, the greenhouse ended up about $55,000. So the school had invested $15,000, and the rest were put together with grants. And we had a grant from Central Platte Natural Resources District, Shelter Insurance, ADM, our United Way. We had local foundations and local donations. And so we did pay for the entire thing before we moved in. So it's allowed us to do some other things. It's been really fun. All right, so students today, we all know it, you know, their electronic pacifiers and their screen time. Parents have fears. There's a term called biophobia, where they're worried about kids being outside and the environment and all the stranger danger. You know, we're seeing fewer and fewer playgrounds, and the ones that are there, they seem to take out equipment all the time based on lawsuits and things. The green areas are disappearing, you know, but we feel like if students are going to care about our planet, they really need to love being in it. And I don't know about your program, but our kids just do not dress for being outside. There are so many opportunities that we can get outside. After it rains, there's lots of things that go on. After it snows, there's lots of things that go on. But we struggle with our kids not having gloves, not having even coats. You know, they get dropped off and they run into the building, but I don't know. It's a frustration, I guess. So why garden with kids? There's lots of studies about improving concentration and cognitive development. It helps with ADD. It gives them that sense of wonder, and the kids are really overstructured. You know, I've heard that more from parents in the last 2 months than ever. You know, all of a sudden they're at home and I've had parents say, I can't believe how relaxed my child is, you know, that they're not going to gym and they're not going here and they're not going there. Maybe this will change some things, I don't know. Another thing with our garden, I can get every student out into our garden. It doesn't matter. We've got kids in wheelchairs, we've got kids with walkers, we have deaf children, we have, you know, it doesn't matter. Every person can get in the garden. Every student that we have can come out to our garden. And we've been really fortunate that our community has really stepped in and been involved in our garden, either with donations and their volunteering time. So with our kids, we know they're natural learners. We know that if you've ever tried to take a fast walk with a toddler, that is not possible. They want to stop and look at every single thing. And that's great. That's the curiosity that we want them to have. There's even some studies that say the earlier we get kids exposed to nature, the less allergies they have. There are so many extensions in the garden beyond just planting seeds. You know, we have, when I go out, sometimes we don't even have a goal. We just go out to see what we can see in the garden. And the kids will find toads, and they'll find bugs, and they'll find birds. And, you know, there's no rushing when we try to take kids out there. And that's the point. If you give them freedom within your definition of freedom. So we have some rules. When I take them out there and we have a full blooming opportunity out there where everything is blooming, you know, my rules to them might be, okay, today you can pick one flower. And so they're excited to do that. They want to take them to their teachers, or they want to take them home, or whatever it is. And that's the point, you know, let them be free within what you say is your definition. So we may, we try to label, we don't put a lot of produce in. We've transitioned over 10 years. We've done produce, we've done weird crops, we've done cotton, we've done peanuts, we've done all different kinds of crops that don't traditionally grow in Nebraska, because that's what the kids wanted to try. We did get peanuts, then we roasted them and they all got to taste them. And so that was a fun thing. You know, cotton is the same thing. It's not a traditional, but we did get cotton, and not till after Halloween, but we did get cotton. So all of those things are extensions in our garden. But in order to do that, the kids really need to have ownership. If they feel like they have say in their garden, and whether that's what crops they're doing or what flowers they're planting, if they own that garden, then they're going to take care of the garden, and they're great tattlers. We had a bunch of tomatoes thrown up against our building one year, and it took about 10 minutes on a Monday morning for about 4 kids to come and tell me who threw all the tomatoes up. They saw them over the weekend. So another time we had, we keep our red wiggler worms in our worm farm, and it sits in the greenhouse during the winter time. And we had somebody break in to our greenhouse, and not necessarily break in. Our lock keeps honest people out, but when the wind blows our greenhouse, it kind of bounces our lock open, because the greenhouse actually kind of vibrates when the fans come on. And so a lot of times the greenhouse is open, the door is unlocked, but somebody got in and threw the worms around on the sidewalk inside our greenhouse, and you know, they didn't live through that. And so when on Monday, again, it was a Monday morning, Monday at noon during the recess, I had kids out there, and they came in after lunch and they said, okay, here's the deal. I think there are some fingerprints on the door, and I think there are footprints in the mud. And so I think if we get the police up here, and so they, you know, when they own it, they're like CSI investigators. It was hilarious. We also grow milkweed in our garden. We worked really hard to get it established. Once it's established, it grows a lot, but we were trying to help with the monarch count. And so we'd been watching our milkweed, and I came in one morning to set water before I came in to the school, and all of our milkweed that was almost ready to bloom was laying flat. And one of our custodians he was a farmer, and for him, milkweed is a weed. And so when he was trimming, he just thought he would help us and cut down all of our milkweed. So we have had some issues. We've had kids that are willing to try Brussels sprouts because they planted it. So they've also made scarecrows in the garden. They make our little plant labels. They've made stepping stones. They've painted things like that. So the more ownership that they have, the better care they will take of your garden. All right, so possible barriers. If you're trying to get a school garden, here are some things that we had to get through. Our district buy-in, our original garden, I think the only reason we got to put in our raised beds was because the site was so ugly that they thought anything would be better than what was there. So I truly believe that was why they said yes. So finding a space for the garden, and we were using a place that they didn't want parents to park anyway. And so the fact that we were going to put a garden in there and raised beds would solve one of their problems also. Nebraska weather is an issue. I was telling Kim before we got started, tonight we're supposed to have really cold weather, and we've got a couple of nights where it might get to 33 degrees. So I will be going out with frost blankets and covering some of the things that are in the lawn. And here we are, you know, a week after having 90 degrees. So Nebraska weather is always an issue. A garden is labor intensive. I mean, there's no getting around it. The kids do not like to weed, although they will do it, and raised beds make it easier. They don't have to get on the ground, and it's also easier to divide the labor. So to tell a group of 4 kids, you guys have this box to weed, is a lot less intimidating and overwhelming to them than if we say we have to weed the whole garden. But I'm the garden coordinator. There was never a title. One of our superintendents decided that was going to be a title. So after the greenhouse, I became the garden coordinator, which is just like one of an activity sponsorships in our school. So I'm paid like a pep club sponsor, I guess, to be in charge of the outside garden in our greenhouse. So that's another big concern of a district to say yes to a garden, is they're afraid that the garden will go in and then nobody will take care of it and it'll be an eyesore and a mess. So somebody's gonna have to step up that is willing to do that. Vandalism, I've kind of talked a little bit about. We really haven't had very much, not near as much as I was worried about. When you're looking for a location, you know, 8 hours of sun, close to a water source, oh my gosh, that is critical. You know, we have a hydrant just across a sidewalk from our garden, but you do not want to have to run 80 feet of hoses and things in order to water. Or I had one school that called and they said that they put theirs in watering cans, but they have to bring it from inside the school, and nobody wants to do that. Water is very heavy, so water source is critical. We start small, whether it's your garden at your house or it's the garden at the school. It's always easier to get bigger, but if you start this huge half-acre garden, everybody's going to get tired of it, because it really is a lot of work, and it's when it's hot and when the bugs are out and all those kind of things. So start small, and if the kids like it, it's always easier to get bigger. Cost is important, but I always agree that you get what you pay for. So we tried, just as an example, we tried a seed starter last spring that I bought at a big box store, and we had terrible results. And I had always purchased ours before from Gardener Supply, which is pricey, but good seed starter. So last year I went the cheap route and we had a terrible time. I mean, I went back to Gardener Supply this year and we had excellent results again. Sometimes you can get seeds for a dime. You can get those packages 10 for $1. But when you open the seed packets, you might only have 4 or 5 seeds inside the package. So just because it's cheap doesn't mean you're going to save money. One of the things that I think everybody needs to utilize are the UNL Master Gardeners. They're in every county, and you need to find out who they are within your county. But every person who's a master gardener has to take education hours every year, but they also have to volunteer 20 hours every calendar year. And these are the people that sometimes really have to look to find the allowable ways for them to volunteer. And school gardens are wonderful. They love working, well, not all of them, I'm sure, but a lot of them will come to me and say, oh, I love to work with kids, and so can I come in and help them with an activity. Some of them even have activities they'd like to try. But definitely utilize your master gardeners, even if it's just for their expertise. They can come in and give you advice if they don't want to volunteer in your school. But it really is a resource that you want to utilize. You can see on this picture, the girls are looking at the cotton crop that we had that year. And we really did get quite a bit of cotton. I still have it in a bag that we pull out every once in a while. So some things that I have learned over 10 years, and I'm sure if you've gardened with kids, you've learned them also. We have garden rules. We try not to have a lot, but we do have garden rules, and we establish the kindergartners have to go out with me every year, and each of the grades have to have a review, but we talk about it early and consistently. And not only me, the gardens are open, and I encourage all the classroom teachers to take their kids out there if it's something in science that they're doing, or if they just want to go out and it's a gorgeous day, take them, walk them through the garden. But then everybody has to be consistent with our rules. So we always talk about them entering a special place. And even though they're outside, it's not recess time, it's garden time. And I always talk about calm voices, not to have them be quiet to hear me necessarily. I kind of have I have a little chime that I'll take out. And if I want their attention, then I'll hit the little chime so that they'll all pay attention. But we talk about it in a way that they're not supposed to scare the creatures. If we want to go out and we want to see if we have birds in the garden or toads in the garden. Last year we had a mama rabbit who decided to make one of our squares her new house, and we had baby rabbits in the garden. And so I talk about it not to be quiet, but so that they won't scare the creatures that are in our garden. So because we have raised beds, they have to stay on the paths. They can't step up on the wood, and we don't ever run in the garden. Everything is kind of in slow motion. And we do have opportunities to eat out there, but they need adult permission. And then just the handling the tools and washing the hands when they leave the garden. The picture here, they did a soybean unit last fall, and those were some of the soybean things that they had. So as a teacher, some things that we try to do, we're always going to include our students in their decisions. Supervision is important for safety. As a teacher, you have to be prepared. If I take a group of 20 kids out there and then I have to go in the garden garage and get out their tools and get out their gloves and get out the wheelbarrow, I've already used half of my time that I have with them. So I always try to have all that stuff ahead of them. And then I carry a clipboard if I go out with kids, because they may ask me a question that I don't know the answer to. So I want to jot that down and listen when they're in there, because that may, if there's 4 or 5 of them that have a question about a particular plant that they have found, or they found a roly-poly bug. And if you listen to the questions and listen to what they're talking about, for a lot of times that will dictate what unit I do next, or what I want to talk about with this group next time. And it'll give me some chances to get some information for them, and they can have those questions answered at a later time. So I said before, they don't like to weed. So I try to make a game of it, a contest of it. We will see who can pull the weed with the longest root, or I'll give them all 5-gallon buckets, and who can get the gallon or a gallon bucket, whatever the size is, and who can get that filled the first. The trouble with making it a game is sometimes they don't pay quite as much of attention, and you might have a tomato plant go in there instead because it filled up the bucket. Whenever we go to the garden, we try to be unhurried. The interesting part of them, most everybody knows more than the kids do about the garden, but it is something that I said at the beginning, you know, we try not to have an agenda. There are times that we have a unit that we're going to do, but I try my hardest to give them unhurried time to let them explore, because that's really what they want to do. I take my little chime out when we want to quietly gather. Vocabulary is hard. I try to introduce vocabulary and garden terms when it's appropriate. So obviously a 4th grader is going to have a little bit more vocabulary than the kindergarten does, but I think it's important that we do give them the garden vocabulary when we have that opportunity. Enthusiasm is probably one of the biggest things. If that's not your favorite place to be, they're going to know that. And you don't have to know everything. There's a lot of times that I will tell them, you know, that's a great question, but I don't know. I'm going to have to look that up, but I'll look it up and let you know. The other thing I would say, probably more than anything else, don't be so serious. Things are going to happen. There's going to be a snake in the garden. They're going to pick up bugs. Birds are going to poop on somebody's head. I mean, it is what it is, and just roll with the punches, because it is hilarious when something like that happens, and your reaction is really what is going to determine how they react to it. I had a group of 5th graders, and their job that fall day was to go out and help clean up the garden for the winter. And they were kind of messing around. They didn't really want to do it, and it was hot, and I didn't really want to do it. So I gave everybody a box, and they had their buckets and everything. Well, in my particular box, I had it almost all cleaned out, and I found a $5 bill, honest to goodness, $5 bill out in the thing. You would not have believed when I showed it to them how fast the rest of them got busy, but I was the only lucky duck that particular day. Adult expectations. Again, if you're a type A personality, you're going to have to let some of that go. Rows aren't going to be straight. If you're one of those gardeners who likes to put the string down and plant your carrot seeds all in a long, long line, and you want it perfectly straight, take a deep breath, because that's not going to probably happen. If there are too many rules in the garden, the kids are going to lose interest, and carrot seeds are teeny. And so just be willing to go with the flow. One year we replanted our onion sets 3 separate times because the kindergartners weeded them for us 3 separate times. We have eliminated wheelbarrows in our garden. We've gone to 4-wheel carts, and that is taken away a big frustration. And 4-wheel carts are not near as much fun to put your friend in and run down the alley and tip him over as a wheelbarrow is. Nature's in the garden. Seriously, we have snakes in our garden, just little gardener snakes. Plants are going to get stepped on. It's always hot. And you don't always have to be the leader. You know, there's a lot of learning that goes on without us. And so sometimes we, as adults, we need to just step back and let them investigate. So seeds are dropped, they're gonna come up. You're gonna have carrots who come up in your tomatoes. You're gonna have flowers that come up other places. For our greenhouse, it is too hot for us to get in our greenhouse from May until about the end of September. And so our summer program uses the greenhouse for all of our water play storage because it's right out on our playground. So we store our swimming pools in there and we store all of our hoses in there. And it's kind of a mess during that time of year. And so at the end of July, I don't really go in, that's when our summer program ends. So I don't really go in the garden or into the greenhouse again until I'm starting to get stuff ready in September. So 2 years ago, I was cleaning up at my house and I had some pots. So I told my husband, I said, I'll be right back. I'm going to run over and take these pots to the greenhouse. And so this was mid-September and our greenhouse it has a French drain underneath our greenhouse, which is just a trench where all the water from the playground and the underground sprinklers and rain, it all accumulates in this French drain, but it is not hooked to our sewer system. And so inside our greenhouse, we had one tomato seed dropped and I didn't know it. So from July, the middle of July to the end of September, this is what I walked into. That is one tomato plant. And when I got, so it had the warmth, it had unlimited water, it had no wind. And needless to say, I didn't go right back to my house. That one tomato plant filled our dumpster. We had tomatoes everywhere. It took me about 3.5 hours to clean out the one tomato plant. But if anybody ever asks you how big a mini tomato plant, this was a little Sweet 100 mini tomato plant. If anybody ever asks you if they get big, they get big. They do. Okay, so I'm looking at my time thinking that we're getting pretty late. So I'm going to go through some of this stuff. This little kit right here is something that we have put together at our school. So there's a little sandwich bag of soil, a cup, a stick, and some easy seeds. So those are some things that they can do at home. And the whole seed packet, couple of pumpkin seeds, couple of sunflower seeds. Catgrass is easy for them to grow. Marigolds are easy for them to grow. And then they can take it home. And this time of year, they can plant it. They don't even have to plant it in a cup. It's ready to go outside. Journaling, there's lots of journaling suggestions that you can do. They could watch the same plant and journal that every week. They can go on a scavenger hunt. Kidsgardening.com has a great scavenger hunt that's already put for you or made for you. They can go out and take pictures with a phone or an iPad. We have student kits put together that have all those things in it, and they're in little totes. And so when we go out, so making an abbreviated investigation kit for your students would be another possibility. The scientific method, we don't get quite into all of that as much as we just do a guess, test, and tell. So it's a little easier for the younger kids. Other activities that are easy for the kids to do, and you can go online and you can find all kinds of things. I've got some resources at the end here in a couple of slides. Seed bombs, seed tapes. Instead of planting carrot seeds, there's an easy way with a paper towel or toilet paper, and some paste that you can make your own seed tapes. The Three Sisters, when you plant beans and corn and squash together, is a fun social studies unit that they can do. We order the red wiggler worms, and so we do the vermicomposting with the kids. animal tracks, insects. Fruit versus vegetable is hilarious for them to do. We also talk about what part do we eat. You know, there's 6 different areas that you can do, but when we're talking about something, we'll pull up the entire plant so that they can see a tomato root, they can see the plant, they can see the leaves, the stem, the fruit. You have to sacrifice one, but it's interesting for them to see. Different kinds of gardens that we have. We've talked about the raised beds, nice visual area where the kids know. Container gardens, a lot of schools do container gardens, and those are also a controlled garden that you can do. When you do raised beds, you can also do theme gardens. We can have a pizza box. So we would put tomatoes and basil and onions and things in there. A sensory garden, you can do different plants that are nice texturally. You can do some tall grasses so you can hear it, they can taste it, all the flower seeds. So the sensory gardens. Garbage gardens are great. We do a lot of that inside. So we will eat a blood orange and do the tasting and then plant the blood orange seeds. And there's lots and lots online about how to get a mango to grow. And those are the things that we have. A big fall unit. It was supposed to be spring, but it didn't happen. So we're going to do a garbage garden in the fall. Vertical gardens, you're hearing a lot about that, to grow up, not out. They're okay, but it really limits where kids can be, because if your garden is horizontal, there's lots of room for them to get to where they can see and touch and feel. But if it's vertical, it's not as easy to get them around. Terrariums, you can make a terrarium really easy in a wide mouth pint jar. Lots of things like that. So resources, utilize your master gardeners. Kids gardening, they have lots and lots of grants. That's kind of the one-stop shop if you were going to go somewhere. Go to this kidsgardening.org, and they're a part of Garden Supply Company, but they host grants. We got one of their grants early on. They also have lesson plans. But they have lots and lots of information on there. Project Wild also ties right in with all of this. Burpee Seeds not only provide the cabbages for schools, but they have lots of stuff on their website. Gardeners.com, which is connected to kids gardening, they have lots of how-tos. So that's another really good resource for you to utilize. And a lot of times you don't have to do this yourself. The lesson plans are already out there. And then state standards. I have our stuff tied to the state standards so that the teachers can utilize that part of it. Okay, this was our greenhouse 2 days ago. So it looks a little bit better without that giant tomato plant in there. But it has Mother's Day flowers in there. All the little cups have been planted this year. Those are styrofoam cups. And soil is probably the most expensive thing that you're gonna do. So we use like an 8.5 ounce styrofoam cup. And all of those plants right now are getting ready to go home to teachers and families and community members. They will all get to come. We got to figure out how to do it in social distancing and all that. It's a little more complicated this year, but all the families in our school can come and pick. I have, I don't know, there's almost 3,000 plants in there right now. So they will be coming in about 10 days, and they'll be able to pick 3 or 4 plants that they want and take home for free. That is something that we have decided to do community-wide this year. Okay, I will stop.
If anybody has any questions, go ahead and type them in the box. That's just
Sorry, I'm out of breath.
so exciting, the work you're doing. Just wonderful learning opportunities, getting kids outside, and your greenhouse is beautiful. The gardens are beautiful.
Not always.
You have so much expertise. I know people want to get in touch with you, so we'll make sure we post that information, but we really appreciate your time. We'll also post information about contacting your UNL Master Gardener that's available in your county, because they would be a wonderful resource in addition to Marcia.
Well, go out and start small, but garden with kids, because it really is, you'll get way more out of it than they do.
And all your tips are going to be so helpful for everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sorry I went over. I knew
I knew you could talk for days about what you do, so we're good. Jeff, Cole, are you on still?
I am.
Yeah. Jeff, would you mind talking a little bit about our additional webinar that we're hosting tomorrow at noon?
Yeah, I'd like to, but before I do that, I'd just like to do a shout out to Marcia, and the work that she's doing in Cozad is really exceptional. And we have been talking to her about becoming a center of excellence for gardening around the state and after school programs, and excited that she's going to be stepping into that role to be able to provide more of this kind of guidance to after school programs across the state. And I think, as everybody who was on the webinar today can testify, that's a smart move, because she has a ton of knowledge and practical experience as well as enthusiasm for this. So we are super excited to be working with her over the next year to see more communities kind of grow into gardening programs that can really make a huge difference in the lives of kids and can provide such a valuable support. So super excited about all the work you're doing, Marcia, and look forward to working with you more in the future.
Thanks, Jeff. We appreciate your support also.
Great. Well, yeah, so Kim, the special webinar we're doing tomorrow as part of the Stay Connected series focuses on the new tool that the C.S. Mott Foundation released called Mizzen. It's an app that was developed specifically to support after-school programs. It's not anything that's been adapted to help after-school programs. It was designed from scratch to be a tool that will help support after-school programs completely free of charge. It's a downloadable app that's available both on Google Play and the Apple Store. So it's something that we really want to encourage programs to take a look at and see if it is something that might enhance your program. It has links to over 1,000 units of after-school ready educational experiences, curriculum, activity, those kinds of things. The app is called Mizzen, M-I-Z-Z-E-N, Mizzen by Mott. So yeah, thanks, Sandra, for typing that in. But it's organized really in 3 big buckets, and that's what we'll focus on tomorrow. The content bucket, which is these 1,000+ experiences. I don't like to use the word curriculum, but kind of curriculum, I guess, in our vernacular. But then also professional development. They have some short videos to help people address key questions, but then also kind of what I call back office stuff, things to help you take attendance, do those kinds of things. So it's a very comprehensive tool. As I said, it's free, and we're really excited about opportunities to share that with you tomorrow. So I'll be joined by Sandy Day, who's been really the lead for us, kind of experimenting with and kind of getting to know kind of Mizzen under the hood, and she'll share her wisdom with you during tomorrow's Stay Connected call.
Hey, Jeff, Sandy here. I just typed in the link for the Mizzen. If they want to get sort of an overview of what it is ahead of time, they can look at it there.
Great.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time, Jeff and Sandy, tomorrow, for sharing that wonderful resource. We've been waiting for a while to see it, so I'm really excited.
Yeah.
So hope all of you can come back again tomorrow. And then next week, we're going to learn a little more about taking kids outdoors, outdoor education, with Courtney Shard, who's with Nebraska Ag in the Classroom with Nebraska Farm Bureau. So she'll be joining us on May 14th at noon. So thanks to all of you for joining us. Thank you, Marcia, especially Marcia. We really are so excited to share what you've taught us and get outdoors with kids. So thanks to all of you for being here today.
I realize some people may be leaving, and that's great, but Marcia, there is a question about if you have any tips on engaging middle schoolers. So I thought I'd give you a minute to address that, and also remind people that if you want to download the chat, you can do that so that you have those links so you can go back and look up Mizzen and things like that.
I think middle school, I mean, they're just bigger elementary kids. I think they're going to be just as excited to get in there and get their hands dirty. I was a merit badge counselor for the Boy Scouts on gardening, and those were middle school kids, and they loved it. They each had a row behind my house, actually in my garden, to do their merit badges. And you know, they just want to get their hands dirty. They want to see those results and plant, and they want to have input. And the more you can involve the kids in their decisions, they don't want to do necessarily what you want them to do. But if they have an idea, that's how we ended up with cotton and peanuts. They wanted to try it. And so with middle school, I would say the same things. They would be even in a better place. Give them the garden seed catalogs and let them see what they'd like to try. And I think they will engage even maybe more than the elementary kids.
Well, thanks again, Marcia. Thanks to everybody for joining us today. We're thrilled to see all of you every week, and we will see you again actually tomorrow for our bonus webinar. So bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Did you get the chat downloaded?
I did. Thank you for reminding
Okay.
me. So I'll share that with Marcia.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.